Journalist Walter Winchell tells Lansky about it. His gangsters burst into the hall. The ensuing fight leaves the Nazis battered, and the mob now in the political arena. In 1942, following the burning of the Normandy, Meyer Lansky attends a meeting with a government investigator and Luciano's lawyer, Moses Polikoff. Luciano is still in jail near the Canadian border. Lansky is committed to the war effort. Now, they just need to meet Lucky Luciano and get his blessing for the deal. A visit is made to the prison. It is Meyer Lansky's greatest contribution to the war effort. Lansky has been taking care of Luciano's underworld business while incarcerated. Now, he delivers Luciano's assistance to the government. Polikoff recalls the moment of decision.
We walked into Lucky and he says, "What the hell are you guys doing here?" He was really surprised. So we explained to him the purpose of our mission, and he said, "Yes, I'll help."
Word goes out that the mob and the dock workers must pull together to help the war effort. No more ships are to be burned, and communist strike organizers are removed. The order is obeyed completely. In return, Luciano is moved from Little Siberia to Great Meadow Prison, one of the nicest institutions in the penal system. U.S. Naval Intelligence is committed to working with Public Enemy Number 1. Officer Anthony Marslow recalls.
They were public enemies, correct. Anyone who could make a contribution to help us was used. Whether it was Luciano, whether it was Bugsy Siegel, whether it was Costello, whether it was Meyer Lansky, yes. A.B. Zwillman, yes. Mike Lascari, yes. All of them.
But Luciano does not stop at the New York docks. In his autobiography, he boasts, "I won the war." The events that follow are amazing. The burning of the Normandy may have been just the beginning of an extraordinary deal between the Mafia and the U.S. government to win the war. July 9th, 1943. Operation Husky goes into action. The invasion of Sicily is the first step in the Allied assault on southern Europe. If this fails, mainland Italy will remain beyond Allied grasp. As the British and Canadians advance, their progress up the East Coast is met by stiff resistance. Every town has to be taken by assault. It looks to be a long and hard campaign. In contrast, the American 7th Army, under General Patton, attacks through the center of the island towards the capital of Palermo. Their advance is swift and relatively bloodless. German and Italian resistance to the Americans is centered at Monte Camerata. American convoys approaching their defensive positions on high ground are punished. There, the infantry are backed by formidable 88mm anti-tank guns and a squadron of tanks, including Tigers. It will be a tough fight that could halt the American advance. It is at this point that local help is needed. Help from the Sicilian Mafia, a mafia with strong ties to New York City. Yet again, Lucky Luciano will be asked to deliver. He proved that the Mafia had power over the docks of New York. He must now prove that he has sway over the Sicilians. It will be the Mafia's greatest demonstration of its influence, one that will expand from the streets of New York to the trenches of southern Italy. Lucky Luciano claimed he burned the Normandy to demonstrate his power. In July 1943, he has his chance to show just how far his influence reaches. As U.S. forces advance across Sicily, they are greeted by a welcoming public.
E il 14 di luglio, cioè 5 giorni dopo lo sbarco, 2 carri armati americani sono venuti per la strada che porta a Villalba. Sono sceso precipitosamente, ho gridato ai miei paesani: arrivano gli americani, arrivano gli americani. E siamo andati incontro ai carri armati. Lungo la strada io mi sono munito di un manico di scopa e di una fodera di cuscino bianco, ho fatto una specie di bandiera bianca, sono andato incontro ai carri armati alle porte del paese. E lì i carri armati che venivano avanti, da uno dei carri armati che veniva verso Villalba, è uscita una cavernosa voce che diceva: chiamare Don Galovizzini, chiamare Don Galovizzini.
On the morning of July 14th, an American fighter plane drops a small sack over the town of Villalba. The package is picked up by the local police. It contains a yellow silk flag bearing the letter L in black. The next day, a similar package is dropped near a farmhouse belonging to Don Calogero Vizzini, head of the Sicilian Mafia. A rider leaves Villalba for the headquarters of Don Calogero's second-in-command, Genco Russo. The note within the package orders him to take command of the area and allow Calogero to accompany the main American invasion force. When 3 U.S. tanks enter the town of Villalba, Calogero flies the yellow flag with the black L. An American officer steps out of the tank and is greeted by the 66-year-old Don Calogero. He hands the flag over to the officer. The L, of course, stands for Luciano.
Si apre la torretta, arrivano i carri armati, Don Galovizzini con il suo nipote si mettono entro il carro armato e vanno via, lasciandoci nasso, buttandoci a noi che eravamo andati incontro a loro, pugni di caramelle e di sigarette. È andato via.
Mafia agents then cross the front line to visit the Axis troops at Camerata. They offer them civilian clothes and shelter if they desert. The Sicilian soldiers convince the other Italians that Don Calogero must be obeyed. Some 2/3 of the Axis army disappears. Left alone, the Germans decide to withdraw rather than fight. The battle for Camerata is over without a shot being fired. Don Calogero stays with the Americans for another 6 days. Western Sicily is secured, but the British have 3 more weeks of hard fighting before they can claim the eastern side of the island. A U.S. officer of civil affairs proclaims Don Calogero mayor of Villalba. For the Sicilian Mafia, it is a triumphant moment. Just a decade earlier, Mussolini had succeeded in stifling the Mafia. Italians cannot have 2 masters, he declared, and sent in the Iron Prefect to crush the Mafia's influence. But in 1943, under U.S. protection, the Mafia reestablishes control over Sicily, a victory for Lucky Luciano and his men. Under the guise of being victims of fascism, Mafia hitmen are released from Italian prisons. Mafia chiefs replace fascist mayors in Sicilian towns. All of this thanks to Lucky Luciano and his negotiations with the U.S. government. A deal which puts the Mafia back in power in Sicily. Don Calogero Vizzini is rewarded for his help.
Quando Don Galovizzini è stato nominato sindaco del paese, nella piazza è radunata quasi tutta la popolazione e questo tenente americano, rivolto alla popolazione, ha detto: questo è essere vostro padrone.
U.S. agents in occupied Sicily watch the Mafia quickly regain its influence. One witness, a former OSS intelligence officer, Joseph Russo.
When I got to Sicily and I took over, the first thing I did, I started looking for the Malavita, the so-called the criminals, Malavita. And it turned out they were mostly mafiosos. And they liked my name and the fact that my father was born in Corleone, the hot seat for the mafia. But I got to know these people, the high mafiosos, and they were big. They got to be real big. And it didn't take them long to re-cement their solidarity as a gang.
Luciano massively strengthened his criminal links across the Atlantic and expanded the influence of the New York Mafia. This will be the basis on which the Mafia revives its fortunes after World War II and dominates organized crime worldwide. Without the demonstration of what the Mafia could deliver at home, it seems unlikely that the U.S. government would have been convinced by its promise to deliver victory in Sicily. But the deal has a price tag. By using the Mafia in wartime, the U.S. government helped re-establish the syndicate as a major criminal force, a force that will plague America for decades to come. Lucky Luciano finally gets his personal reward for lending Mafia support to the war effort. He is freed from prison on condition that he must leave the U.S. and never talk about his involvement in the war. On February 9, 1946, Luciano boards the Laura Keene. Mafia chiefs Meyer Lansky and Frank Costello come to see him off. But Luciano quickly reestablishes himself, operating first from Cuba and then Italy. Soon, Luciano is back in business. We may never know if he really burned the Normandy or just claimed he did for the power it earned him. But the collusion between the U.S. government and the Mafia has been revealed. The mysterious burning of the Normandy extended from the streets of New York to the villages of Italy and echoed a collaboration between two of the most unlikely organizations in America. One of the darkest secrets of World War II.